now I've got their attention. So if everybody in here was about 20 years old, man, they'd be locked on here. So, it's incredible when you say drone around again. Even the younger ones, probably down to about 12 years old, because they play with them all the time on the video games. And we have an air-to-air-to-air ground kit, and we can pump that down to the ground forces. You know, what's neat about that, when I was in Alpha Models and actually conducting combat operations, we'd have to literally land by whether we're with an infantry battalion or a company commander, whatever, or armor. We'd get out and we'd point to our maps and say, hey, I think the bad guys are here. Where do you think they're at? And we talk a little bit. I'd run back over to the helicopter, get into it, we'd take off, and we'd go conduct our mission. Thank goodness we don't have to do that. Because the young kids wouldn't get out of the aircraft. They'd land and they'd want everybody to come to them. But luckily, none of those guys in the audience right now. But with that, and we can get that data, we can pump it down, and we can see the same things, and we can talk back and forth on the radio. And before I engage an enemy target, I know I'm shooting the exact right target before we do any of that. You know, now we're progressing. Now we're getting ready for what you're doing, and specifically here as we walk through the new Apache zone and what you're getting ready to do with the Apache zone and the upgrades that we're doing on the aircraft. The aircraft is built around incremental updates. We're getting ready to add the version 4 increment to the aircraft, which will come out, should start coming out, well, we just entered March now. It'll be coming out this month in March, and we'll start delivering those aircraft to Fort Hood, Texas. Fort Hood will be my 5th unit equipped that we'll have with the ECO models. We've done 4 units to date, and 2 of those units have already went downrange to Afghanistan. And when we get to that point, I want to share a quick story about the 101st that we just got last week from the unit that returned from Afghanistan, the 1st to the 101st, and they gave us a great situation. The situation that they talked about was 100% why we built the man-to-man teaming for the ECO model, exactly why we did that. So as we go forward and we go to V6, we're building the version 6, the last increment of the Apache helicopter to make it to ECO. Once V6 is complete, I've completed all the development on the aircraft, and we'll have a complete ECO. So we'll do more changes, and one of those changes specifically related to GECO is going to be man-to-man teaming next generation, or X, MUM-TX. When we add MUM-TX, we're going to take the capability that we have in the Delta, in the Delta model today, and we're going to take the capability that we have with the ECO model, and we're going to combine them together in one system, because the ECO model was built to talk to aircraft that are tactical common data link. I know it doesn't mean a lot to you, but it's a different radio waveform, and there are only 2 UAS, unmanned aerial system drones, that we can talk to out there right now. Once we add that, we can talk to absolutely everything that's on the battlefield. And I can put that into the cockpit, pump it down to the ground commander, and he can let me know, yes, you're going to fire at the right piece of equipment, or the right target, or the right enemy formation. And what that comes back into is not us engaging the targets, it's us protecting our troops on the ground. That's exactly what the Apache was built for, and that's what it does very effectively. It's the world's premier attack helicopter, and there's none that can follow its suit after what it does. So continuing on a little bit more, what I really wanted to talk about it as well was, like I said, the 101st, I referenced the 101st and the man-to-man team. Last week they gave us a great scenario where the 101st was out conducting combat operations. They were probably about 60, 80 kilometers from the target. They're setting in the fuel and rearming point, you know, getting ammo, getting fuel, whatever they need to conduct their operations. And they've got a Gray Eagle, 60 kilometers down watching the enemy location while they're setting in the farm, while they're getting fuel, and they're sitting there and they're getting their situational awareness, and they can see the targets, and they can do everything they need to do on the ground without putting anybody else in harm's way. And when they take off from that position and all the way in until they get to their battle position, probably about 5 kilometers from the actual target, they've watched it 100% the whole way. And that was 100% what the tactical common data link, MUM-T, was supposed to add to the ECO model, and they're using it today. They did come to say with a little reservation that, yes, you got to be young. You know, so I'm talking to older pilots, and they're going, we need one of these young kids. And George and I were talking about it earlier. A young kid can go in there and set the router and the modems and do all that instantly, and they know exactly what's going on. You know, us older guys like me, it takes us a little bit more to add that into the system, but we can still do it. And we're looking for upgrades as we continue. When we do the upgrades, like I talked a little bit earlier, 690 aircraft is the current plan that we're going to have for the ECHO models. And you've probably seen a little bit in the news in reference to the Army restructure initiative where we may be doing or building some aircraft for the National Guard. That decision's still yet to be made. But right now, my charter says I'm going to build 690 ECHO model aircraft. That's going to go out through deliveries, production through 2024 right now, deliveries out to 2025 with the sustainment of this aircraft. And I'm being told this by the general officers that I support out to 2045, maybe 2060 before we fully retire the Apache. So if you got kids that want to fly this thing, they can do it. Or grandkids, they can do it. Because it's going to be around for a long time. And the good thing is for George and Jennifer, for GECO, and you know, especially for Boeing, as they continue forward, it's a lot of support, a lot of maintenance, and a lot of activity we're going to have on this aircraft for a long time. You know, and I wanted to say another story before I kind of wrap up a little bit. And this one, about a year ago, I couldn't tell it, so hopefully I can tell it today. This is a personal story that I had happen to me 2 years ago. The Association of the United States Army. I was up there for the conference. Happens in October every year. You know, wearing this suit, you're the Apache project manager, you get a lot of attention. So, you know, all I want to do is after a full day of walking around, Kim knows exactly what I'm talking about, full day of walking around and probably meeting with 20 vendors throughout the period of the day. All I want to do is kind of go wind down. I do like to run, but on the other end, I like a good craft beer too. So that's why I run. I learned that in Germany. When I started drinking, I was like, I got to do something. So now I just run a long time. But a good craft beer, so I went to a bar, just wanted one beer to wind down a little bit. In fact, I even had my wife with me when we went to the bar. And we were talking about what the bartender had behind, you know, the tap handles, if you ever, because they're different everywhere you go now. There's so many, it's incredible. Having him explain them to us, so we're trying to make up our mind. He walked away and took care of somebody else. So we made up our mind on what kind of beer that we would like to choose. We made our choices. He poured them out, put them in front of me, said, no charge. And I went, no charge? I said, I got to pay. I'm not in uniform. I'm in civics. And I said, no charge. I said, why is that? He said, that young man in the corner, he bought your beer for you and your wife. And I'm going, you know, okay, now I got to be inquisitive. Now I got to go ask the young guy. I said, why did you do that and all that? So I walked over to do that, and I didn't even catch a clue what I was wearing. I had one of our shirts on, had a great big Apache on the chest, and didn't even pay attention. I was so used to it. You get immune to what you're wearing half the time. And like I said, I love the airframe, so I have a lot of clothes I have Apache on. I walked over and I asked him. I said, why did you buy the beer for me? He said, sir, because I'll buy a beer for any Apache pilot that I see from this day forward. So he told me a little bit of story. He was pinned down in Afghanistan. They were in the rocks. They were already, young infantrymen. He'd already been shot a couple times. He had a prosthetic leg. I said, I had a hard time telling this. A prosthetic leg, and he shared that with me that the rounds were coming in, everything was happening. He thought sure, and he had his wife, his kids, everybody's at home. He was gone. And then he said, all heck broke loose. That's not the word he used, but he said, all heck broke loose. And he used a few other ways to describe that, from an Army guy to an Army guy. But, and then pretty soon everything got really calm. And then we looked up into the horizon. There came the team of Apaches that flew over, and they saved his life. So, I said that really hit me. But being on the other end, it's hard when you get a young trooper that comes up and says that to you. But what's really important about that story is I get to come up and tell the story. I get to get in front of people all the time. It's not me that builds the aircraft, it's everybody else. It's everybody in this room, it's everybody across the street here, it's the people in Iowa, it's the people scattered all across this country that build this great helicopter. And our soldiers, our seamen, our airmen, our special operators, CIA operatives, anybody that's on the ground counts on the Apache every day. And every one of you are integral to that success that we have on the battlefield, whether it's in training, whether it's in preparation to go to combat, whether it's in combat, and when we return home. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.